lesson 4.2, multiply multi-digit decimals. All right, step it out. One way to multiply decimals is by using a decimal grid. The grid represents one whole where each square is 1/100th. It's that same grid we used in our last lesson. Find the product of 5/10 times 4/10. All right, so to represent 5/10, I can shade, well, I know that each column has 10 in it, so I can shade 5 columns, which is 50 squares. And if I took 5/10 and added a 0 at the end, I would get 50 hundredths, and that's why it's 50 squares. To represent 4/10, I can shade 4 rows, and that's 40 squares. Then I said to shade the grid. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you shade for multiplication, you go up and down, vertical one for the first number and horizontal for the second number. And then it says how many squares have been shaded twice. So then the ones that we count are the ones that have the overlap. So these ones. And 20 squares have been shaded twice. The double shaded squares represent the decimal as 20 hundredths. So the answer of 5/10 times 4/10 is 20 hundredths. Okay, so that was one way to multiply decimals. Let's look at another way. This way is using the area model. Kara buys 11.2 pounds of pork chops for $3.50 per pound. How can you find the total cost of the pork chops? Well, what you do in this case is 11.2 pounds times 350. An area model shows partial products using place value. Complete the area model by multiplying to find the partial products. List the partial products. Okay, so what they're talking about is this. This is the area model. And what they've done is they have separated, see 11.2 and separated that out, and 3.5 is separated. And then they said, okay, well, it's 3 times 10 because that one is in this one is in the tens place. 0.5 times 10 goes here. Well, let's do it. I'm going to put 10 on top. Times 0.5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. And then when we do this, let's see, there's one number after the decimal, so we have to put our decimal place right there. So that's 5. And then this one is in the ones place, so it's times 1. And notice they've already done those because those are easy. This 2 is after the decimal, so it's 0.2. So 3 times 0.2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. And there's one number after the decimal, so it's 0.6. Then we have 0.5 times 0.2. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And then we have 2 numbers after the decimal, so there's going to be 2 numbers here. Okay, I'm not going to rewrite all of the B. B wants us to rewrite it all. We can just look at it in that box. All right, and then it says, what is the sum of the partial products? So when you do partial products, you break it up like this, and then you have to add up all of your answers. So we would do 30 plus 3 plus 6/10 plus 5 plus 5/10 plus 1/10. Okay, or 10 hundredths, same thing. And when you added all of those up, you get 39 and 20 hundredths. So how much does she pay for the pork chops? She pays $39.20. So we just did this problem but we used the area partial product model. Okay, so they're giving you different ways to solve a problem. Ultimately, you'll get to choose your favorite way. Let's look at the next page. Jared mows the grass every weekend in the summer. The amount of gas he uses per hour is shown. How much gas does he use in 5.8 hours? Write an expression. So remember, when it says expression, it means just to write the math problem. In the picture, I see he uses 1.2 liters of gas each hour. So he's doing that for 5.8 hours. So I'm going to do 1.2 times the number of hours he's mowing. Find an estimate of this product by rounding each factor to the nearest whole number and then multiplying. So 1.2, the nearest whole number would just be 1, because if we're going to round, 0.5 or higher goes up, okay? And then 5.8 is closest to 6. So my estimate is going to be 6. Another way to multiply is to multiply as you would with whole numbers, then count the number of decimal places after the decimal point in the factors. Okay, so this is the more traditional way to multiply. So they want us to do 58 times 12. Remember this chapter or this module, we are writing all of our math out, no calculator. So 2 times 8 is 16, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And then remember, you have to have your placeholder, and then 1 times 8 is 8, and 1 times 5 is 5. And we're going to add those together. 6 plus 0 is 6, 1 plus 8 is 9, and 1 plus 5 is 6. And then it says how many places are in the factors 5.8 and 1.2. Well, I'm going to go ahead and add my decimals in. And you see I have 1 decimal place here and 1 here. So we would count 1, 2, and then in our answer we go 1, 2. Okay, so let's see. All right, and then D says the product must have the same number of decimal places as the total number of decimal places in the factor. How many decimal places should there be? Well, we already did that one too. There should be 2. What is the product? 6.92, and we knew 6.96. We knew that because, again, we counted and we said, okay, there's 1 number behind the decimal, 2 numbers behind the decimal, so my answer has to have 2 numbers behind the decimal. All right? This is always a good idea to check your answer for reasonableness. So we estimated that we were going to have 6, and we got a product of 6.96, so that is reasonable.